What's going on, everyone? So Jaylen Brown has been an absolute dog in these playoffs. I mean, he has been spectacular. He has been their closer. He has been their leader in a lot of ways. I have talked about Jaylen Brown in the past and talked about Jayson Tatum too, and kind of my frustrations with Tatum and like Brown. Like Jayson Tatum is the best player on Boston. He just doesn't play like it at times. And Jaylen Brown Jaylen Brown has the one mentality, but with the two talent. Where Jayson Tatum is has the two mentality with the one talent. And it's like if you could just take Jaylen Brown's mindset and put it into Jayson Tatum might be the best player in the league. But Jaylen Brown this playoffs has really he's been, in my opinion, the best player on Boston during this run. It's not take away from Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum's had some great moments. He's had some great games. He very likely will in this finals. But I think when we get done with these NBA finals, I think Jaylen Brown is going to get the finals MVP. I think he's going to win it. He just won the Larry Bird Eastern Conference Finals trophy. He was the MVP for that. And I think he's going to get the finals MVP in this series against Dallas. Because I just think if Boston ends up winning it, which I do believe that they will, as frustrating as it is to say that, I just think Jaylen Brown's going to continue to be the guy that takes over, hits the big shots, makes the big plays, gets the defensive stops, does all the things that are necessary in order for Boston to win. He's been the guy. He has been him this playoff run. Again, Jayson Tatum, he's had his moments, he's had his games. But Jaylen Brown has been clearly he's been the leader in these playoffs, right? So far through these playoffs, he's averaging 25 points. He's averaging, we'll round up, 0.7 blocks, but basically a block, 1.2 steals, 2.6 assists, 6.1 rebounds. Free throw shooting needs to be better. He's only shooting 62% from the foul line, which isn't great, but he's never been like this like super elite free throw shooter. But he has an EFG of 60%. He's shooting 62.2% from 2-point range, which is insane. He's shooting 36, almost 37% from 3-point range, 36.6% on 5.5 attempts. He's shooting 54.3% from the field total. The guy is doing it all, right? And again, it's not to take away from Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum is an incredible player. And look, if you just look at his stats, he's having himself quite the season, or quite the playoffs as well. He just hasn't been very efficient, which has been the problem. He's averaging 25.3 points, 6 assists, 10 rebounds, 1 steal, and again, we'll round it up, 0.7 blocks, rounded up to 1 blocks. He's from the foul line, 84%, but he has an EFG of 49%. He's really had his struggles shooting the basketball throughout these playoffs. He's shooting 51.9% from 2-point range, which is good. He's shooting 29.9% from 3 on 7.1 attempts, which is awful. He's shooting 43.8% from the field total in these playoffs on 19.3 attempts. So he is averaging so far basically, will be nice, rounded up, a point more than Jaylen Brown, but he's also taking 3 more field goal attempts per game. Jaylen Brown has been more efficient. He has been more effective. He's been a lot more impactful in a lot of ways. Jaylen Brown also, again, going back to the clutch, he's been in the clutch, he's been money. Jayson Tatum's clutch numbers are atrocious this postseason. Now, again, he's had some big moments, right? Like, a lot of people point to Jaylen Brown and like say Jayson Tatum in the Indiana Pacers game, the game 1, right? But also Jayson Tatum was huge in that overtime in particular, right? Like, again, Jayson Tatum has always frustrated me because his whole career has just disappeared at times. And, it's like, how many games have we seen where Jayson Tatum will go and drop 30 through 3 quarters and then just completely vanish and disappear, right? But then you'll see games where game 7 where he drops a 50 piece, right? Like he has some of the most ridiculous talents and skills. And a lot of it is just Jayson Tatum himself, right? Like Jayson Tatum he likes to hinder his own self. Like he is his worst enemy. he gets in his own way more than any player I think I've ever seen. He falls in love with just poor shot selection. He falls in love with just settling on contested jumpers and contested threes. It's like he has to get his 8 threes a game, right? Like there's times where Boston is just dominating, and it's like then Jayson Tatum will just start jacking up shots and getting careless and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh wow, like how did they lose the lead? And it's like, well, Jayson Tatum just completely just decided to have fun and just start jacking up shots and stuff. Like it's incredibly frustrating at times because in all honesty, Jayson Tatum should be undoubtedly the best player in the league. Like what can this man not do? He is arguably the best two-way player in the league. He has the size, the skills, and the strength that very few people in this league have, the athleticism to back it up. The guy can score from basically anywhere on the basketball court, right? Like going into this finals, all the conversation is like, hey, Luka's the best player. Luka's clearly the best player. Luka's clearly the best player. What? Like, I mean, he is, don't get me wrong, but that should not even be an argument with Jayson Tatum. Jayson Tatum, his rebounding, right? I mean, this is a guy that go get you, again, he's averaging 10 rebounds a game. It's a guy that is excellent rebounding the basketball. He's got good size, can defend essentially 1 through 5. I mean, he was defending Lively and Gafford in the first game of the finals. This guy can, again, score from anywhere on the court. He can turn into playmaker mode and go give you 11 assists if you want. I mean, this is a guy that literally can do everything and also defend the best player on the other team. Like, Luka can do everything except defend the best player on the other team. Like, Jayson Tatum shouldn't be like, oh, Luka's clearly the best. No, it should be like, man, like Jayson Tatum, and that's not the conversation because Jayson Tatum does it to himself. And it's incredibly frustrating, right? Like, again, I love Jayson Tatum. But Jaylen Brown, man, he is the dog. He is the guy. He is the guy that he's just been the guy time and time again, has just shown up, shown he's not afraid of the moment. Does he have his ailments? Of course, right? Like, him dribbling left and whatnot, right? It's a running joke. And don't get me wrong, he does have his bonehead moments. He does have his moments where he tries to be a little too much dominant, right? Rather than playing within the flow of things. Like the Boston Celtics just have this trend of beating themselves. Like even in that game against Dallas, like Boston did everything they could to throw that game. They just love to kind of get away, get ISO heavy, just jack up shots. Like times it gets a little silly. But Jaylen Brown is the guy that you see more times than not. Like when Boston needs a bucket, he's the guy putting his head down and just getting to the basket. He's the guy that's going in and creating contact. As big, strong, and physical as Jayson Tatum is, the fact that he takes so few free throws is wild. Absolutely wild to me. Right? Like Jayson Tatum should be out there like James Harden, just creating contact and getting, 10 free throws a game. But he falls in love with just shooting the 3-ball and just shooting these just contested fadeaways and his little elbow shot that he loves. And it's just like, dude, there's times where you're just watching him, you're just like, come on, man. Like, he's averaging 6.7 rebounds per game. Or 6.7 free throws per game. Sorry. Jaylen Brown's averaging 5.6. Jayson Tatum, who is bigger, more physical, more imposing, the better offense player, more skilled, and Jaylen Brown is the guy that more times than not is more aggressive at getting to the basket. He's more aggressive at putting his head down and finishing. Like, Jayson Tatum should be literally unstoppable game in and game out. Like, again, he has games where you just watch him and you're just like, wow, right? When Jayson Tatum is on, he's the best in the league in that regard. Like, when he is on and he is at his peak, there's very few people in this league that can do what he does when they are on. Like, he is just an incredible talent, but it's just so frustrating at times to watch Jayson Tatum just completely disappear when it's his team. He's the guy. Again, if you could swap these two mentalities, like if you could just take Jaylen Brown's brain and his just alpha dog and put it in Jayson Tatum, man, I think Boston would have already won multiple championships. I think Boston would already they'd be looking to potentially three-peat right now, right? It's just, I Jaylen Brown, I just think he's just stood out more in these playoffs, right? Like Jayson Tatum, he'll drop 25 and it's quiet, right? Like he'll drop 25 and you're just like, oh wow, Jayson Tatum's got 25. Like Jaylen Brown drops 25, like you know he dropped 25. He's dunking on people. He's, just puffing his chest. He's getting and ones. He's got that just like, give me the ball, move out the way, right? I'm going to end your career. Watch this, right? You're going to be a highlight on ESPN in a moment, right? And I love that about him. Right? But it's just like Jayson Tatum he's the more gifted player. And it's just, but again, it's just like Jaylen Brown, he's the guy that I trust more at times. I trust him more at times watching these guys play. And throughout these playoffs, Jaylen Brown has just been more trustworthy. Again, I don't doubt that Jayson Tatum's going to have a big game and a big moment, right? He very well could go and just dominate the rest of the way, right? They could end up sweeping Dallas in these next 3 games. Jayson Tatum's just dominant, right? And I know, like, Jayson Tatum in game 1, a lot of people point to and go, he was really missing shots and he just couldn't get his shot to fall. But it wasn't just that. It was his shot selection. It was the way he was shooting shots. I mean, again, Jaylen Brown, you'll see, like, if his shot isn't falling, he'll just put his head down and get to the basket, create contact, get to the foul line, and kind of use the free throws to knock it down, right? But for whatever reason, it's just, I don't know. It frustrates me because, again, Jayson Tatum should just be absolutely dominant. Everyone has bad games. Everyone has bad moments, right? It's not that. But it's just like Jaylen Brown has just been, he's just been spectacular. And I just really think when all of this is said and done, I think Boston's going to hoist the Larry O'Brien. Again, as much as it pains me to say that as a Laker fan, I think it's the reality. But I just think he's going to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. And you're going to get the announcement of, who's the finals MVP. I think it's going to be Jaylen Brown rather than Jayson Tatum. And how often does a number 1 on a championship team not get the finals MVP or not get the Eastern Conference MVP, right? Like Steph, somebody that comes to mind, but beyond him, usually it's the best player on the team, right? Which should be Jayson Tatum, but it hasn't been. And so, again, credit Jaylen Brown for just being the monster that he's been these playoffs. But I don't know, it's just been a little disappointing to me as a Tatum fan, as somebody that just really likes Jayson Tatum. But anyway, again, love to hear your thoughts and opinions, however you feel. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. It helps me a lot. So I enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.